friends to our first session of Freebooters on the Frontier. This is what we call session 0, which is where we roll up characters and make the world, or at least part of the world, before we embark on your first adventure. And I'm just going to introduce each of you by first name, and I'll click on the little video to make your face pop up, and then maybe later I might edit in like title cards that show who you are and your character's name and stuff. So joining us from California is, oh yeah, and then in the comments below this video I'll put like any contact info you want me to add in, but your website or whatever. So here is Donna joining us from lovely California. Here's Jan, who's in Bynum, North Carolina. JP, who's in Cincinnati. Beautiful blue walls you got there, man. That's brightening my Vermont winter. Riley down in Brooklyn, and Sophie also out there in California. Welcome, everyone. So the basic structure of this session is we're going to have a conversation about what kind of fantasy world you guys want to play in. And then after we get kind of a big picture idea of what this world's going to look like, which is just in very general terms, if there's any kind of like, large scale dramatic kind of features of the campaign setting, we're going to talk about that. And then we're going to roll up your characters. And then after we roll up your characters, we'll talk about the more local setting where your characters are actually going to start their journey. And then we'll probably have time to get started on your very first adventure together. So does everybody have some real dice? Show me your real dice. You got to show me. Okay, yes, proof, yes. Okay, we have proof. Excellent, thank you. Yeah, so that's where you're going to go. The thing you need to know about Freebooters, one of the things is there's lots of rolling on random tables. And I don't roll dice as the judge. In this game, we call the GM the judge, because I'll be judging you all. So there will become a time when I'll say, okay, everybody roll a d12, and then I'll just ask you to report your numbers, and you'll just report them in from, for me, it's left to right, Donna, Jan, JP, Riley, and Sophie. So there's a lot of that happening. I don't often know what's going to happen next. A lot of times the dice will sort of tell us what happens next. But there's also a lot of asking you to contribute to the game world and make decisions about what the world is like. Okay, so I'm just going to tell you a little bit. I'm going to read a little flavor text here to sort of set the stage for what this game's all about. Excuse me. At the edge of the civilized lands lies the wild frontier, a vast and perilous wilderness full of deadly monsters, ancient wonders, and, if the stories hold true, great wealth. You are a band of treasure hunters, misfits and outcasts considered unhinged by most folks, because you seek to venture into that wilderness. They think you're crazy, but who wants a life of drudgery ordained by the ruling class? You're willing to risk everything for some of that legendary treasure, because with enough of it socked away, you'll be able to retire in comfort. You're not heroes, not yet. You're hardscrabble adventurers, barely getting by at the moment, but if you keep your tinderbox dry, your knife sharp, and your wits about you, there may be a manor house in your future. If you're not careful, though, your bones will join those of the other foolhardy fortune hunters whose remains litter the wilderness. So that sort of sets the stage. And the very first question I want to ask you guys, and anybody can chime in, is about the climate of this general kind of latitude where this campaign setting is going to take place. If you had to choose between, somebody can also just roll a die to figure this out, but the choices are frigid, which is closer to one of the poles, or on the colder side, temperate, or torrid, which is a more kind of desert and jungle-like environment. And then you could also choose kind of a zone in between any, it could be like temperate verging into frigid, or temperate verging into torrid. So does anybody have any strong feelings about climate? Somebody, okay, nobody has a choice.
I'll say temperate.
Temperate?
Yeah.
Okay, if there's no objections, Great. Then we're gonna start with a temperate climate. Does everybody want to play with sort of standard? The standard fantasy races for this game are human. Well, not a fantasy race. Humans, halflings, dwarves, and elves are the playable PC species, not races. Do you guys want to play with those kind of classic ones, or do you want to make up your own? Or you could even sub out something.
What were the ones that you said just now?
Just humans, halflings, dwarves, and elves.
Cool.
No strong opinions. We're going to go with
me. Yeah.
Standard fantasy races.
I have a slight hankering for talking animals, but I'm willing to let that appear as the game progresses too.
Okay, great. Fantastic.
Whichever.
I'm sure it will. I'm going to make a note. Okay. The next question is, I usually like to use a real-world language as a basis for naming conventions in a game like this, so that when we name things, if we translate them into this fantasy language, which is based on a real-world language, it'll all kind of be consistent. And we're gonna sort of a temperate zone, and I could just choose a language, or if anybody has any suggestions, we can go with that. I'm just gonna look up on Google Translate and look at a bunch of different languages.
Languages for what, Jason? Like the common speech, or all the different?
Like whatever kingdom or realm you're going to be starting in, this language will be the start. Generally it's a human kingdom, so we'll be using the common tongue for that particular state. And then if like the halflings usually speak what the humans speak, but then dwarves and elves would each have their own separate different language.
I like Finnish, but it sounds really good as like a dwarven or
Sweet.
some other non-human race.
Let's do that. Let's do Finnish for the dwarves. Perfect. The other great thing about using a linguistic basis is that it also gives us names, lots of names to generate for each of the different language groups. So that's great. So dwarves will have Finnish names.
I really like Portuguese, but it's kind of hard to
hard to pronounce properly without insulting.
It's really
Portuguese.
nasally.
And there's the Portuguese. What about what else is over there? A Basque would be crazy. Let me see how things come across in Portuguese here. I'm just going to enter Iron Town. Yeah, see, Cidade de Ferro. Yeah, I don't know. That's cool. Portuguese for the common tongue. Cool with that? Please forgive us, Portuguese listeners, for what would be terrible pronunciations. And then how about the elves? What kind of, if the dwarves are sort of Finnish, any ideas? Okay, we can hang out. We can hang on to the elves for now, unless anybody has any ideas. I'm looking.
Can't remember what we used in our campaign before.
For elves.
Yeah.
Well, it should be sort of far from the dwarves are Finnish. How about Basque? Let's see what that looks like. Yeah, okay, we're gonna go with Basque. It's got some cool looking words. Okay, great. So the tone of the game is, sort of realistic. I sometimes might describe it as survival horror D&D, where a lot of times you might find yourself in a tough spot and doing everything you can to survive, including sacrificing your own teammates. Not to give you any ideas, but sometimes that might happen. Humor is great. Humor is fine. as part of my job as judge is to kind of like rein stuff in if it goes too far afield. So there might be times where I might like adjust a detail or something to make it fit a little bit. So it's a crazy fantasy world with magic and all kinds of stuff, but sometimes there's a kind of level of goofball that I will pull back in line. Not that any of you are anything other than complete and utter goofballs, but okay. So any questions about that tone stuff? All right, awesome. And now we're going to consider the big picture of this fantasy setting. And the question here is, if there's anything in your own imagination or in some fantasy story that you've read or watched or whatever, absorbed, any cool idea or concept that you would love to see in this kind of setting. And if not, we can just roll some dice. But if anybody has anything that, well, I already got talking animals, so that's a thing. That's on the list.
I've been really interested in cults lately. I don't know if that can fit in somehow.
Absolutely. They're going to be in there anyway. So give me like like what's a kind of high concept idea for either one cult or how cults, the fact that cults exist or
like some kind of like. I'm always thinking about these towers, like weird towers in the middle of nowhere that are full of a cult.
Sweet.
Like I don't know if you get this reference, but like there's like a tower in Final Fantasy 3 that like has a bunch of, it's called the Fanatics Tower, and it's got all these magicians kind of like doing the OEO thing in front. That's always really captured my imagination.
Excellent. I love it. Towers full of cults. Cult towers. That's a lot to work with. So like multiple.
Maybe.
There's
yeah.
something about these towers that boy, they must be like some kind of source of power or some kind of connection to the gods or something.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
Can I chime in?
Yes.
I don't know if this fits at all with what you're talking about, Riley, but I've always loved situations where there's lots of wizards who are all sort of they all know each other, but they're all sort of competing with one another.
Yeah.
And they have their little factions and stuff like that. I don't know if that fits in.
Totally.
Yeah, that could totally relate. So a kind of pretty kind of tangled political situation amongst the wizards.
Yeah. Yeah. They're always trying to steal each other's ideas and
okay. So very covetous of their
backstab each other when they can.
Okay, excellent. So we've got backstabbing wizards, cults and towers. Any other big ideas? If not, let's roll. Let's get two percentile dice rolls, D100 rolls, and I'm just going to go left to right here. Donna, why don't you make a roll? And Jan, you make a roll. Remember how to do that? That's a D8. That's a D8.
6.
You got a 6? And Donna? Yeah, that's right. Roll it. What's that?
6.
Roll that and then roll it again. That's the 10, so it's 60.
4.
64. So 6 and 64. Okay, so 6 is a terrible plague sweeps the land, decimating centers of population. So there's a terrible plague out there. That's bad news. And 64, is that right? A dominant religion persecutes sages and philosophers as enemies of the church. This is some bad stuff going down. Okay. All right, so those are some big picture ideas that we got. We got these cultists in these towers. At least, I'm going to say at least 3 towers out there. There's a terrible plague that is spreading across the land, decimating centers of population. So the big cities may not be great places to be. And whatever the dominant religion is persecuting sages and philosophers. So bad news to be a person of learning in this world. or at least in the immediate vicinity. Any questions or elaborations on any of that? Any details that occur to you that anybody would like to add?
The sages and philosophers could be the wizards and the cults. I don't know if we want to stick them together, but maybe that's why they live in towers, because they're getting persecuted.
Right. Well, cults by definition are minority, right? They're like
Yeah.
a lesser religious faction, so they're already. That's great. They won't live near the dominant religious centers, so they're already kind of set up as kind of an enmity situation. Yeah, but then the question would be: are wizards? Do wizards fall into that category of people who are persecuted by the church? Fun times for any wizard who might show up in the group.
Yeah.
Any feelings either way? I mean, I guess if they're persecuting sages and philosophers, it's a fine line between that and the guy with the pointy hat, right?
Isn't a sage and a philosopher? Isn't a wizard basically a sage or a philosopher in a fantasy realm?
That sounds like a yes to me. Okay. So the wizards are being persecuted by this dominant religion. And also there's a natural tension between religion and divine power and wizards who are kind of seeking power for themselves, right? So that's a great tension there. Excellent. Wizards, sages, and philosophers. Okay, awesome. We're going to roll some characters now. And we're going to do a whole bunch of rolling all together, and then you guys are going to read me your numbers, and I'm just going to call out. So get your playbooks out, and everybody's going to roll a d12 to see what class they are. And we're going to report in from Donna down the line. You got the right d12 there?
This is the D12?
No.
That's a d10. It's got a pentagonal sides, I think.
Sorry, I'm not ready.
That's okay. It looks like this.
Oh, found it. Okay.
Okay.
3.
You are a fighter. Jan,
5.
you are a fighter. TP,
11.
you are a cleric. Riley,
11.
you are a cleric. Are you going to be persecuting some wizards? Sophie,
I also got an 11.
nice. 3. Oh,
Are we
roll
like
the
a
die.
band of like wizard hating like we're just here to like strike down anyone who's
Oh,
That's
working
hilarious.
magic outside the law?
I think it's three priests and their bodyguards. Awesome. So now we're going to roll your heritage. Each person, this is again a d12. Donna.
I got a 4.
Human.
Okay.
Jan.
10.
Dwarf.
Yes.
JP.
8.
Halfling. Riley.
7.
Human. Sophie.
1.
Human. So we got a dwarf and a halfling in there to mix it up. So write that down on your playbook in the right spot. Humans, you should know, and you could make a note of this in your in that heritage box. When you wrap up, which is the end of session move that happens, you mark an extra experience point. Humans learn a little bit faster than other people. Halflings, when you eat an extra ration, JP, anytime you eat, when you eat an extra one, you get to take +1 towards whatever your next roll is, called +1 forward. So if you, fill your belly well before a given task, you'll be better at it. And dwarves, Jan, when you're underground, you take +1 ongoing to perceive. So
Right.
you can perceive things better when you're underground.
See that.
And now the fun part where we roll our ability scores. You don't have to report these into me, but this is the procedure. You take 3 6-sided dice, in hand. And you're going to roll those and add them up. And then you're going to write the first number in the, the strength box. That the playbook has 3 boxes. It's got the current score, the max score, the current score, and then the modifier. So in that first box on the left, you're going to write whatever number you roll, and write it in lightly because you might erase it. So you're going to roll 3 6-sided dice and go all the way down that line from strength all the way through to luck and record those numbers. So go ahead and do that.
I'm going to unmute so we can get some dice.
Yeah, everybody's got to turn on their microphone so we can hear all the dice rolling.
Nice.
There we go. Music to my ears, you guys.
So far, I'm pretty mediocre.
And if it falls on the floor, you re-roll, right?
That's exactly right. Anything that falls off the table, you must re-roll. You can't keep whatever that number is.
I brought a little dice box.
Oh, nice.
Ooh.
Smart.
And then when you're all done, just hit your mute mic, so I'll know mute button, so I can tell that you're all set to go.
Are we switching now, or?
I'll talk you through that.
Okay.
I know you know how to do this, but
Sorry, I forgot if you said that.
okay. So is everybody done? Sweet. So now you're going to choose any 2 scores that you just rolled and swap them if you want. Maybe you're fine with what you've rolled, but depending on your class, clerics, your favorite abilities are wisdom, charisma, and strength. So those are the things that'll be useful for you to have, particularly wisdom and charisma for talking to the gods and whatnot. And fighters, it's either strength, dexterity, or constitution are the ones that you care about. Constitution affects your overall health and your hit points. Strength is, what strength does, and dexterity will affect any ranged attacks that you make. So you can choose 2 of those cards to swap. If you look at the lower right-hand corner of your playbook, you'll see a list of modifiers, so you can see what which the thresholds for the different modifiers. The higher the modifier, the better. And when you're all set with that, just look up. Don't look up until you're ready.
Sorry, I got lost. What are we doing? Switching to characteristics?
Yes, you swap any 2 scores, which you may not want to do, but for your class, it might be useful to have a higher one in one of those.
Yeah, my dwarf has a miserable 5 constitution. So I'm contemplating switching it with the 15 charisma.
Oh yeah. All these clerics are going to have charisma. The dwarf can.
Yeah.
And then after you do that, the next step is, depending on your species, you get to add some points to some abilities. Humans get to add 1 point to 2 different abilities, any 2 abilities. But they have to be different. Dwarves have 2 points that they can spend on strength, constitution, or wisdom. And unlike humans, dwarves could put both of those points into a single ability score. So you could add +2 to wisdom, or +2 to strength, or +2 to constitution, or you could divide it up and do 1 point. But it has to be strength, constitution, or wisdom for dwarves. Halflings, your favorite abilities are dexterity, constitution, and luck. And it's the same deal. You have 2 points, and you could put both of those into one stat or split them up. Does that make sense to everybody?
How many points?
You have 2 total.
2. Okay.
And your abilities are dexterity, constitution, and luck. You have to put it into one of those.
Cool.
Or sorry, it could be 2 different ones or just one.
Right.
So for humans, so if I add +1 to a 15 number, then it goes to 16, and then I get a +2 modifier.
That's exactly right. So that's
Okay.
a smart move. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
And then once you've done that, those are your starting ability scores. So you can write them in a little darker if you want to, and then you consult that modifier table in the lower right-hand corner, and then you just write the modifiers down the right-hand column of boxes next to each stat. Let me know if any of that's confusing.
Sorry, can you say that one more time?
Do you have all your numbers worked out?
Yeah.
Okay. So then you look at the modifier table in the lower right-hand corner of the front page.
Oh, we're just doing the modifiers.
Yeah, just fill in the modifier on the right side.
Okay.
And then once you're done with that, everybody's going to pick up their hit die, which for fighters is a D10 and for clerics is a D8. And just hold that up when you're ready so we can see. Ready, ready. And when everybody's ready, you're all going to roll your hit points. Okay, Jan's ready. Riley? There you go. Okay, everybody roll that die one time.
Whoa.
Oh no,
Nice.
it's
And
bad.
now, if you have there's a couple things that happen right now. If you have a constitution modifier, you apply that modifier to this roll, but the roll cannot go below 1. So 1 is the minimum. And if you want to burn a point of luck, you can increase this roll by 1 point. So you could increase your starting hit points by 1 point if you burn a point of luck. And when you burn a point of luck, you keep the current luck value that you've written there, and in the box just to the right of that, you write the adjusted luck value.
You mean you keep the max?
So you keep the max number, that's right, and then you write the adjusted number to the right. And this is a good point to mention that anytime you roll any dice at any point in the game, you can burn luck to raise the number by 1. And when you only get luck back when you level up. So that's something. And the other thing to mention is, obviously, the lower your luck modifier, the worse you are in situations where luck matters. And when a bad thing might happen, like if it's you and another person walking along down a dark alley, and you have the lower luck than the other person you're with, and there's an equal chance that when somebody empties their chamber pot out of a window, it might fall on you or the other person. It falls on the person who has the less luck. So that's one reason to not let your luck get low, because sometimes it's things besides chamber pots that are falling on your head. Okay, so how many hit points you got, Donna?
I managed to scrape 6 together.
Jan?
I pulled 5 after reducing my luck.
JP?
6.
Riley?
4.
Sophie?
I rolled a 1, but I burned a luck.
So at this point, one good blow from a short sword could potentially kill any one of you guys. So just keep that in mind. Excellent. And now you're going to roll your alignment. There are 5 different alignments. And you, each one of them has a particular thing you can do that'll get you experience points. So everybody roll a d12.
I'm evil.
Donna, what do you got?
6.
And you're a fighter?
Correct.
You are neutral.
Okay.
Jan.
I'm evil.
Ooh. JP.
A 6.
Neutral. Riley.
11.
Good.
Ooh.
Sophie.
4.
Chaotic. And I will tell you your alignment goal. Each one of you has a thing that you can do that will get you experience points during the session. And it'll just get you 1 in the session if you do this thing. And so you can make a note of this somewhere. If you are evil, you get an experience point if you inflict harm on another person for personal gain.
Okay.
That's one way to do that. Yeah, that's like so opposite of you. Not the rest of you guys though, just Jan. He's the only one who. If you're chaotic, you get an experience point for disrupting the prevailing order, whatever that may be. If you're neutral, you get an experience point for correcting an imbalance, however we choose to interpret that. And if you're good, Riley, being the only good person in the party, you get experience point when you help those in need at your own expense. Okay, now we get to a fun part where based on your alignment, you're each going to roll character traits. And these are things that they're aspects of your personality that if you act on them during the session, you'll get an experience point at the end. Doesn't matter how many times you act on them. It doesn't matter how many different ones you act on. If you act on any of them, you get 1 experience point at the end of the session. Okay, and you roll different traits depending on your alignment. So you're going to roll, each of you should roll the percentile dice, the D100, 3 times, except if you're neutral, just roll twice. And then I will get those numbers and tell you what your traits are. Okay, Donna, what you got?
I got 42 and 56.
So you are, your first trait is fair, and your second trait is mad, as in a little perhaps eccentric or even crazy might be a word used. So you're fair, but you're a little off your nut. Jan.
I got inflexible, impatient, and stubborn.
Oh, I have a feeling that either only the dwarf will survive or the dwarf will be the first to go.
I mean, that's pretty good if you're. I mean, they could be a lot more evil. So I'm kind of like the annoying side of evil, I guess.
In this day and age, we could use more just simply annoying evil, I think. Excellent. JP.
68 and 51.
Your first one is idealistic, perfect for a priest. And 51 is you're a liar.
Cool. Awesome.
All right, let's see how that works out. Those two are totally compatible, by the way. Riley.
11, 36, 83.
Well, here we go, you guys. He's chaste. 36, is that what you said?
Yeah.
Determined. And the last one?
83.
Persistent. Ooh, determined and persistent. Wow. I think you and the dwarf are going to get along great.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Sophie.
All right, 15,
Compassionate.
19.
Cruel.
Well, okay.
The people that you aren't compassionate. Or
Well, I'm
maybe
chaotic, right? So, you know, I can pick and choose. 22.
Decadent.
All right.
Okay, and now you're gonna roll those same dice. You're gonna roll them 3 times again, but this is for your appearance. The first roll is going to also dictate your apparent gender. If you roll even, it's female, odd is male, and doubles is your non-binary or ambiguous in terms of how your gender is perceived. And you're going to roll 3 times, and these are appearance traits, things about you, the way you look. You get to embellish on these and add, and you can look, you know, and you also get to drop one of these. So after rolling 3, and I'll read them off to you, and you get to not, if you don't want all 3, you can choose one to drop. Okay. So, all right, Donna, what'd you get?
27, 22, and 8.
So 27 is male, and you have a goatee.
Mm.
The second one was 22, is that what you said?
Yeah.
So dark skin, which just means darker than whatever the kind of average is for this culture that you guys are living in, and we haven't really determined that. But so you have darker skin than the average person in this culture. And your last one?
8.
Broad shoulders.
All right.
What's your strength?
15.
Okay, yeah, all right. Jan.
I got 40.
Large hands.
All right. 13.
Clear-eyed.
Really? Okay. And 81.
Squint.
What? That doesn't make sense.
Hey, when your eyes
Clear-eyed squint.
We never get to see your beautiful clear eyes.
But when you do, I think that's a moment. When that dwarf opens his eyes and you can see how clear they are, that's beautiful.
So what's my gender?
Sorry, what was your first roll?
40.
Female.
And but we can change one of these, you said?
You can just drop one. And then
Just
as
drop
far as
one if you don't like it.
yeah, you can embellish on your appearance as much as you want. You just can keep
Okay.
keep two of these. Yeah. Got it?
Great.
JP.
Okay, 73.
So male. And you have tattoos.
Okay. 53
Missing teeth.
and 96.
Wild hair.
Great.
I'm starting to get a picture of what I wonder what kind of religion this cleric is
Yeah.
a member of. You can start to think about that. Riley.
85.
Oh, I'm sorry, JP. I was reading off the wrong column. Give me those numbers again.
Oh, okay. 73.
Square chin.
53.
Perfect posture.
Way different. 96.
Well scrubbed. I'm gonna let you actually mix and match from those, okay? So
Okay.
whatever those you want. Since I made a mistake there. Okay, Riley.
So 85.
Male. And you have a tonsure. Do you know what that is?
Nope.
That's the friar tuck thing where you're bald on top and you got hair and the fringe all the way around. It's not just bald, you're shaved. This part of your head is shaved.
That's so good. What is it called?
A tonsure, Tonsure.
Excellent.
Capital G, good.
66.
It says you have a shaved head. So you could choose either one of those. Either you're totally bald or you have a tonsure.
Obviously the tonsure.
Okay, yeah, no question. Then maybe other parts are shaved. And your last one?
6.
Bright eyes. This is
Great.
one pleasant, bright-eyed fellow. Sophie.
I'm so excited.
56.
A piercing gaze.
Okay.
And that's
70.
female.
Female. 71.
Smiling.
8.
Bushy eyebrows. Okay, so you're starting to get a mental picture of your character, I hope, and you'll just be adding to that as we go. And I'll sometimes ask you, well, what does that look like? What is your, describe your clothing or whatever, and then you'll just let us all know. So there's a lot of kind of imagining yourself in your head and then telling the rest of us what you look like. Now you can open your playbook and look at your the moves specific to your class. Each playbook is different. So the fighters, if you look at the left hand, when you open up your playbook on the left hand side, those are all the moves that you start the game with. Oh, and for those of you that don't know what moves are these little kind of units of rules that tell you, each one of which has a trigger that tells you when they sort of activate. And the whole game is operated or runs according to these little rule units called moves. So there's moves for most things that you do in the game that you need to roll dice for, and every class has their own special set of moves. So fighters, the first thing you'll see there on the upper left is about how you need to have a favored weapon, a weapon that you're particularly skilled at using. You can use any kind of weapon, but when you're using this particular weapon, there's special things you can do with it. So you guys can choose whatever kind of weapon you want. If you're high in dexterity, you might want to choose a ranged weapon or a thrown weapon. If you're high in strength, then you're going to want a melee weapon. And if you have the marketplace list printed out, there should be, or accessible, there's a list of weapons there. So you guys can think about that. Clerics, your task is to consider who your god is. And what do we got? We got a neutral, chaotic, and an evil. No, neutral, chaotic, and good clerics here. It's very possible that even though you have different alignments, that you could all believe in the same or follow, be an adherent of the same religion. Because within any given group, within any given faction, there's varied alignments. It's just that there's a prevailing alignment, right? So there could be a good god that Riley would be kind of a sort of great exemplar of that god, and then it's very possible that there could be a chaotic and a neutral cleric within that god. It's just that your personal behaviors are a little different than maybe the ideals of that. Or you could each, or two of you could believe in the same god, or all three of you could believe in three different, three different deities would lead to some very interesting fireside conversations, I think.
I do
totally
kind of like the idea that we all have different interpretations of the same god.
Yeah.
Like the sort of rabbinical,
Right. One of you maybe even belonging to a cult offshoot of the original teachings or something, right? Yeah, so what do the clerics think about that? Same god?
Yeah, I think same god is, I would vote same god.
Sure. Yeah.
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 Cool.
Maybe a neutral god, right? To keep us.
Yeah.
Sure. Do you
Is there a neutral god?
And you guys can roll to get some ideas for the domains of that god if you want, or if you have any ideas. So your god has kind of control over certain aspects of reality, of the mundane world, and they're called domains. So you get to either choose Or you could roll two different domains that the god has power over. So, for instance, like the sun and agriculture or something like that. And then one of your special things you do as a cleric is you get to call upon your god to aid you. When you call upon your god, it has to somehow draw upon from those domains in order for your god to listen to you. So if you worship the sun god, you could, for instance, call upon your god to strike down an enemy with a bolt of heavenly fire or something like that. And you get to kind of make that up as you go. So any thoughts about domains?
I'm into rolling.
Yeah, I love rolling.
Yeah.
At least to get some ideas. We don't have to stick to this, but so
We
Riley, why don't
can
you
still
roll?
veto.
What's that?
We can still veto.
Yes, totally. If it doesn't seem right. So rolling on the neutral column here for primary domain. Riley, why don't you roll a percentile dice?
Percentage?
Yeah.
90.
Travel and trade. Sophie, why don't you roll percentile dice for the secondary?
95.
And wits and intelligence. So this would be a smart, crafty merchant god.
Maybe
if that-
that's why this god is like trying to control all of the. If that is the, if we are part of the prominent religion.
If you're part of the persecuting force.
Yeah. It's sort of a.
Oh, you mean because like
control of trade and yeah.
We can roll two more too to mix up that conversation to see if anything else.
Let's do it.
Okay, JP, why don't you roll twice?
19
Okay.
and 86.
Okay, this one is change and transformation, and wetlands and marsh or swamp. Could be kind of cool.
Swamp god.
Swamp
If the non-clerics want to chime in also, because this is going to have maybe to do with the rest of the world, like that's.
It's definitely going to have to, yeah, right, because you're creating one of the religions of this world. So, so with that mix in the air, go ahead and share your thoughts.
What was the mix again?
The first couple rolls were travel and trade was one domain, and the other domain was wits and intelligence. And then the second set of rules was transformation and change, and wetlands, marshland, swamp.
Great.
Any particular associations or ideas? I mean, change and transformation seems like it could at least be useful, right? If you call upon your god to do stuff in the world, like that's a pretty broad.
Sounds like a frog god. Go from a tadpole and then grow legs and stuff.
Right. To go from aquatic to amphibian.
Are we picking two? Is that the idea?
You need two domains, yeah.
Okay.
Does it say that in the playbook?
Yeah, it does.
Okay.
If I were to read.
No, I would just maybe I print. Maybe I didn't update it or something because it used to be one. Are there any other? When I think about swamplands and wetlands, yeah, frogs are great. Could be other kinds of like a newt or who else hangs out? There's snakes, alligator god.
I've been having not in terms of gods, but I've been having fantasies about sunken ruins or partially submerged ruins and giant snails.
Giant snails.
That doesn't have to have anything to do with the gods.
I'm writing these down though. Giant snails. JP, you got any ideas?
I mean they're so different.
That's right.
So it can be any combination. It's not like the first two together and the last two together.
These whenever I on this kind of table when I roll on it, it's just to give us ideas to like talk
Oh,
about.
okay.
So yeah, you could totally. These are not hard and fast. In fact, you could ignore them and just make up two domains.
Mm-hmm.
They're just to kind of get ideas kind of flowing.
I mean, so travel and trade doesn't sound very useful, but with us being split on alignments, I can see how different alignments would work with that.
Yeah. I can see it being useful like travel, right? Like you guys are going to be exploring the wilderness, so your god could potentially do things like, I don't know,
sure,
teleport you or and trade
what
Maybe
direction
we
to
could
go in. Yeah.
when you go to
move
town.
away things that we are not interested in dealing with too.
But then like the wetland and marsh thing is kind of like a more druid like cleric or something. So I mean, any of it sounds good to me. I don't know.
Okay, so no, you're not leaning one way or
I
the
don't
other.
have like a preference. Yeah.
Did you go with wild hair and tattoos, or did you go with the perfect posture?
I went with the perfect posture and well scrubbed.
Okay, so that's not so much wetlands and marsh, maybe.
True.
Not so druidy. Riley, what was your appearance?
I'm thinking of like a big long robe and like one of those big necklace things.
And you got the tonsure.
And the tonsure, and like I'm pretty strong. I'm like kind of strong, but I'm also kind of weak. I don't know. I'm not there yet.
Okay. So far, I'm okay. Sophie, and how are you? Got any mental image of your person yet?
Not really. I think the smiling thing is maybe the biggest
The smiling.
anchor.
Oh, so here's a question: what are your guys' intelligence?
Not good. 6.
Yours is 6.
Yeah, mine's an 8.
Okay.
I got a 10.
Okay, yeah. So I think wits and intelligence we can
Yeah, that's off the table.
definitely
Definitely.
not of your guy.
I like the swamp travel merchant stuff.
Oh.
Like trade. I don't know. I think that those two go together for me in some
Oh,
way.
so somehow combine those two? Okay.
No, I mean as the two the domains.
I'll switch my appearance back to the other one if that's still okay.
Oh yeah, totally.
I'll go tattoo and wild hair.
I'm curious how this like super specific, this really so like the wetlands are like a very specific type of place, and yet this religion is like ruling the land at this point. So I'm curious like how that manifests.
I mean, yeah.
I'm not
I had a
saying
thought.
like it does. I'm curious like what people are thoughts.
Well,
about that.
what it reminded me of is with like the Arthurian legends and how there was like the land of apples that was like through the mist in the wetlands, and it was like this place that the other people came from, or the land that you travel to when you die. And so it had all this sort of mystique about it. And you could imagine that like different cultures have different like holy places. Like in Shintoism, it's like the wild hills that nobody can tame is where all the monsters live. And, in England, it was the fens where like you can't get there. There's all kinds of boogeyman living there or whatever. So it could be just the source of religious mystery or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah. And before you mentioned half submerged ruins, right? Like,
Yeah.
so we're starting to get a picture of some of the landscape, at least, and the idea. I love the idea of like a mist of the mist being this kind of mysterious. So wetlands possibly is a source of religious mystery, or that's awesome. And what would the also I see applications outside of obviously the wetlands would be the place where your god has more sway, but like outside of the wetlands you could do things like ask for mist to appear or call upon the swarm of frogs or whatever to do your bidding. There's lots of possibilities there. So if that's one of the domains, what would the secondary, anybody have any ideas about the secondary?
You read them all, the other three off again? Do you mind?
There's wits and intelligence, which we're throwing right out. Travel and trade, and
Change.
Change and transformation.
Right. I could go either of those.
Yeah.
Let's go with change and transformation, just because that's cool.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I can even you guys, even the clerics themselves could go through some eventual transformation, Awesome. And I guess, do you want to be is at least the organized, overarching kind of ruling body of the church, is it your religion that is persecuting wizards and scholars, or is that a different religion? I mean, your god is neutral, right? That seems.
I think it's a different religion.
Yeah, I think that probably makes sense.
Yeah.
And you can individually and together have some opinion about that. Your characters can have some opinion about that religion's actions, but we'll say that that's a different kind of dominant religion. Okay, excellent. Jumping back to the fighters for a second, what favorite weapons did you guys pick? You're muted. Oh, there you go.
Sorry, I got so caught up in the whole religious debate that I was a question. If I picked like something like a hatchet for my favorite weapon, because I was thinking an evil character should probably be able to throw something dangerous. Are there a lot of I haven't carefully read the fighter moves. The types of things that you do with your favored weapon apply to thrown weapons too?
Yes. If you choose a thrown weapon, then that is the way you spend your resource, your metal, it's called, is pretty flexible. So it would work just fine for something thrown.
So revel in battle is something you use just with your favored weapon?
I think it's just whenever you charge in against overwhelming odds. Doesn't have to be with your
that's no glory.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Yeah.
Read to me. I don't have the playbook in front of me.
Okay. Each time you use this move, the favored weapon, choose one. It just Why don't you ask Donna? I'll just read for a minute.
Okay, Donna, what's your favorite weapon?
Can I have two weapons or no, just one?
You start with one, but when you
Okay.
when you get a new move, you can choose to take an additional favorite weapon.
I see. Well, I'll start with a spear.
Great. Awesome. Guys, clerics, unite. Any thoughts about a good holy symbol for your transforming god of the misty damp? No, nothing yet. That's fine.
It's like if there was a cross or something like a crucifix would be like an example of that.
Exactly. It'd be like some iconic thing or symbol, or like you mentioned that you have some kind of necklace that you wear.
Yeah.
What are you picturing? Describe.
I don't know why, but like a monkey, like kind of a monk like thing. I don't know. It's like a samurai showdown kind of thing with like these big balls.
Balls of like metal or wood.
Yeah. Or
These
wood.
metal-
Yeah. Wood.
Wood.
Yeah.
Okay. That may just be a thing
It's
that
just
your
a
dude
thing.
does.
Yeah. Maybe it's supposed to weigh me down and like make me feel like
Like the burdens of,
yeah, like
existence.
like a flagellant kind of
Yes, I got it. Do you other guys wear that necklace of heavy wooden spheres, or what do you
Is
guys
there
think?
like an
No.
animal or something?
That sounds great. Any ideas?
What's a swamp animal or
Swamp
a wetlands or marsh animal?
Lizards and snakes and frogs and toads and
Snail.
alligators.
Now,
Hey Riley, what if that necklace was a series of carved wooden snail shells?
oh, yeah.
What if the burden of existence is like the house that the snail has to carry on their back,
Yeah.
and the transformation? What do snails do?
are they like hermit crabs? Do they pick new? Do they get new shells as they get bigger? Is the shell part of the?
I mean, we can make our snails anything we want. It's a fantasy world.
Yeah.
Right? Maybe there's a particular kind of creature that maybe how about it there's a point at which it physically changes and has to abandon its shell.
The snail.
Yeah, or whatever this creature is, like it goes through
Specific type of swamp snail.
yeah, as part of its life cycle. Or maybe there's
Snail.
multiple stages. What was that, so?
It's a hermit snail.
Or there could be some other creature who uses the snail shells like a hermit crab that we haven't thought of yet.
Yeah.
Could it grow into like a standing like snail person?
Whoa! Yes.
That is like a rare thing you would see. Like maybe it's a mythical creature.
The snailkin, snail folk,
Yeah. Yeah.
bipedal. Are they rare, or are they oh yeah, so are they like they live in the mists and are rarely seen kind of thing?
Yeah. It's like a sort of a magical being almost.
And how do you as an adherent of this religion feel about these beings? Riley, I'm asking you.
Yeah, maybe it's like part of our faith is that they are like they exist, and then someday you'll be able to get to like talk to one or something.
Like if you're chosen, or
Yeah,
particularly
it's like they're like maybe they could be like the messengers or like the conduits to our God.
so the equivalent of angels.
Yeah.
Snailgels.
Is that too much?
I like that. Okay. And then starting there with these, so there's creatures of the swamp. There maybe these lowly creatures. Maybe there's this snail-like creature. I'm going to look up what the word snail is in Portuguese, because I think that might give us. Wow. Wait, I have Basque loaded up. Sorry, it's a crazy word. Caracol. Caracol. That actually sounds like a pretty good god's name.
Yeah, I was just gonna say.
Caracol. People cool with that? For the name of that?
CARA.
COL.
Awesome.
And with your holy symbol, so if we think about these shells as things that are outgrown, and the burden, the necklace that you wear, it represents that kind of burden of, you haven't ascended, or you haven't achieved enlightenment, right? You haven't made your move to that next. Maybe even higher ranks in the church. Maybe higher up priests have fewer shells on.
Or could it be in different manifestations? Like some people could have the necklace or like a hat, or like I don't know,
or like a tonsure carved in a in a spiral pattern,
like earrings, or I don't know.
Different.
Maybe it could be different things.
Okay. Yeah. Would this sort of icon of the faith be just this spiral shell, or would be some other kind of different icon? Does the shell represent just the kind of burden of existence, or does it also stand for the deity.
Could it be both? I don't know.
Sure.
I don't know. I feel like I'm taking over.
I appreciate your sensitivity.
It sounds good to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let's leave it there for now. And if anybody has any ideas about other aspects of it. But so right now, we'll just stick with that idea. Jan, any conclusions about that move?
Whoops. I'm going to choose a hatchet.
You're doing hatchet?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Great. And what was the answer on that move that you were reading up on?
Oh, well, it sounds like the main thing, if I'm correct, that the favored weapon does is when you make a move with a favored weapon, you can spend a medal to add 1 to the roll.
Yeah.
So it helps you to hit.
Right.
Right.
And do you have a decent dexterity?
I got a +1 on my thing, 13.
Okay, great. All right. So we have some. Is there anything else on the clerics page besides domains that you guys have to figure out? You should figure out what your starting favor is. It should say there what your starting favor is.
Tenet.
Oh yeah, your tenet. You guys have to figure out a tenet, which is a kind of guiding principle, and you get XP at the end of a session if you accomplish your tenet, right? So it's like, an example would be do unto others as you would have them do unto you, something like that. So we don't have to come up with that right now, but think about what a good kind of a common guideline for your faith might be, given these themes of transformation, change, and snail angels.
Would we all share the same one?
Yes. It is basically like a dictum of the church. So you guys can think about that. And if you flip over to the back of your playbook, on the left side, there's a box that says capacity. Everybody see that? And then underneath that box is a little formula. It's STR. Whenever you see the 3 first letters of an ability, that refers to the modifier, right? So whatever your strength modifier is, you add that to the number under that box. And that's the sort of abstracted amount of stuff you can carry. And then so write that number in the capacity box there. And if you're confused, let me know. Okay, and after that, you're going to roll your starting gear. These are some random items that you start with, and you're going to write those above that capacity box. There's an area for writing down gear, and that's where you're going to write everything that you have at the beginning of the game. So fighters, the first thing you can write in your gear area is you start with your favorite weapon. So Donna, you can write down spear, and Jan, you can write down hatchet. I mean, I think, yeah, and you can buy more hatchets if you want to.
I only start with 1.
You only start with 1, yeah.
Okay.
And then everybody's gonna roll a d6 3 times, and I'll tell you some other starting stuff. Starting with Donna.
Okay, 6. 1, 4.
So you have common clothes, leather armor, and a shield.
Okay, cool.
The leather armor weighs 1, and the shield weighs 2.
Okay, got it.
Jan.
Okay, I have 1, 2, and 2.
So you have poor clothes, leather armor, and a buckler.
All right.
Leather armor is weight 1, and the buckler is weight 1. So a buckler is just a smaller shield. It works just like a shield, except because it's smaller, depending on the situation and the circumstances, it may not be able to block. But the advantage that it does has is you can actually use it to block arrows. You can. That's what it's for, is to block small things that get thrown at you. So between the buckler and the hatchet, you seem like a pretty mobile.
Nice.
Clerics, starting with JP.
Okay. 2.
It's a hooded tunic.
Okay. Sorry, 5.
A mace or warhammer, your choice.
Okay. And 6.
Chainmail. That's a pretty sweet starting item. The mace or warhammer weighs 1, and the chainmail weighs 2.
Okay.
Riley.
I have 5.
Nice. You have a cap and cassock. Classic. It's fitting right in with your Friar Muck, I'm going to call you.
Can that be my name?
If you wanted to.
Wait, what's a cassock?
How can I describe a cassock? It's like a it's kind of sort of like the classic when you picture a priest with the white collar. It's like that kind of almost. It comes down to there's a waist, but then there's almost like a long dress on the bottom of it, like a Russian Orthodox priest or something like that.
Okay,
So not quite a robe because it's usually belted at the waist.
cool. 2.
A knife or staff.
A staff.
Yeah, knife or staff.
Okay, I'm gonna take a staff. And a 1.
You have a collection cup. And roll 1d6.
4.
There's 4 silver pieces in that collection cup.
Okay.
Okay.
2,
A hooded tunic.
3,
A dagger or club cudgel. Club/cudgel.
1.
You also have a collection cup
All right.
with the d6 silver pieces. You guys have been making the rounds.
6.
Now, are you going to spend that money? Are you going to take it where it's supposed to go? Did you choose dagger or club?
I think I'm gonna have a club.
Okay, so that's weight 1. And the collection cup is 0. Oh, Riley, your staff is weight 1. Okay. Back to fighters. Here's some general stuff that both the fighters start with. You start with a backpack. A water skin. A knife. And 1d6 rations, uses of rations. So roll a 6-sided die, and that's how many meals, how many days worth of food you have on you. And then clerics, you start with your holy symbol. You also start with a backpack, a water skin, and 1d6 worth of rations as well. And after everybody has all that written down, oh yeah, so as far as weights of things goes, the rations, even if you just have 1 ration, it still has weight 1. So if everybody, that counts towards your capacity there. And now everybody gets a random item. So you roll the percentile dice, the D100, to figure out what that is. And I'm going to start at the right end with Sophie.
$27.
You start with a fancy belt or girdle. Riley?
48.
An heirloom healer's kit.
Okay.
So, either one of your parents or grandparents or something must have been a healer to leave you with that. JP?
48.
An heirloom healer's kit.
All right. Does that have weight?
What's that?
Does that have weight? The healers?
Yes, it's weight 1. Jan.
90.
A spell scroll, which must be deciphered somehow, but somehow you came into possession of a spell scroll. You don't know what it does. Donna.
75.
A prayer book.
What? All right.
I don't know if you believe in clerical, but maybe there's a different god that you believe in, or maybe that's just a prayer book you picked up somewhere. Okay, so that's everybody's starting gear. The way capacity works is that you can carry up to your capacity with no problem, and then you can carry, if you have up to twice your capacity, you do everything with a penalty, and then you can't really carry more than twice that. You would just be so weighted down you wouldn't really be able to get anywhere. We got inventory now. Everybody roll 2d6. And you're going to add the total. You're going to add the result to your luck score. So the big number, your big luck number, not your modifier, and that's the amount of silver pieces you start with.
Add your luck.
Yeah.
Your current luck.
Yes, in fact, yes. Good point. I should make a note of that. So you can write that number in the little pouch, lightly in the little pouch on the back of your playbook. And this is the point where you're going to go shopping. So looking at the marketplace list and kind of conferring with each other, you're going to decide how you're going to spend your paltry starting funds, knowing that the first thing you're going to be doing after you make a plan is head out into the wilderness. So picturing yourself venturing out on an expedition, think about what might be useful on an expedition. And for those of you who aren't familiar, there's one particular item on the marketplace list called adventuring gear. And what that does is it's basically like a packet or bag of stuff, and it's of situational use. So during the adventure, you can reach into that bag and pull out something that would be useful. So you don't have to specify every little item you have with you. If you have adventuring gear, you can say, I pull out some candles, or I pull out some rope. And it has a certain number of uses. So that's it might be something worth considering.
Adventuring gear I see costs 20, and I don't think any of us can afford it.
You could always,
we might have to pool our money if we want adventuring gear.
You could also sell anything you have for half its listed value, and those heirloom healers kit are worth 24 silver pieces each. So if you wanted 12 silver pieces, you could sell those off.
Sorry, go ahead.
I have 18 silver beyond my my cup. I really want to get a buckler because I have 2 hit points. But I can contribute 3 silver to somebody.
You can do what, Sophie?
I could get a buckler and I'd still have 3 silver to spare if somebody wanted to use it for something else.
She's offering to kick 3 silver into the kitty.
Wow.
You're gonna give away the money you collected?
No, dude, I have 18 silver, and then I also have that money.
Okay.
I think we should get adventuring gear. But I only have 10.
I've got this spell scroll that my low intelligence dwarf probably has nothing that it can do with. But I would love to try to sell it to somebody because I'm sure it's worth hundreds of gold pieces or whatever.
Yeah. So so let's do that right now. Well, so hold that thought. Real quickly, we're gonna jump to, because we can have a little scene where that happens. Let's pause on the marketplace for a moment. People can keep thinking about stuff they want to buy. But let's think about the. Actually, let's jump over to the map for a second here. It might help us understand a little bit of the context before we finalize our purchases. Let's see here. So I am going to share the map. Okay, so there's the map, right? Everybody see that? Let's see if I can zoom in on it here. So somewhere on this map is where the town is, or perhaps city, but I mean, cities are plague-ridden, so I would caution against that. Somewhere on this map is the settlement where you'll be starting your adventure. And I think I'm going to ask Jan, since you were interested in selling your scroll, where do you think that settlement is on this map?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I lost my window because I pressed the wrong window on my board. But I can see the map. I think the settlement is, let's see, probably not too far from the coast. And so we would be on the edge of the unknown. Is that what you were saying?
That's right.
Yeah. So, yeah, maybe. How about out on one of those, the big fat peninsula to the right? Yeah, right there.
Middle of that peninsula. Does that seem cool? Great. So are you picturing, is this like a colonial outpost, or is the home kingdom across the sea, or is it on this landmass?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, maybe the kingdom sticks close to the coast.
Okay, cool.
And there may be a road that runs along that coastline out to the east.
Are you looking at do you have access to the scribble tool there on the map?
Yeah, I'll draw it.
Yeah, draw the outline of the kingdom or whatever it is.
Where's my scribble tool? Does that show up?
Yes. Is that the road?
Yeah, that's the road to the kingdom.
Okay, great. So, and Donna, are there any other settlements on that road, or does you have to go all the way along that road to reach this town? Is there any? It looks to me like, I'm going to say, given totally flat terrain, you can cross 3 hexes in a day. So for instance, on this road, but on a road you'd move faster. So I'd say on the road you could go 5 hexes in a day.
Mm-hmm.
So were there any other settlements between this one and where the road goes off towards the rest of the kingdom?
Yeah, I think so. I can't see the map anymore, but Are you gonna put it up on your screen or?
I thought I was sharing it with everyone, but I guess I was doing it wrong.
Oh, it was.
Can you see it now? Can you see it now?
No, I can't.
Oh.
I saw it like a second ago. And I know that you're sharing. I'm just
Yeah.
using. I can look it up on my phone. But yeah, I think there's a settlement there.
Okay. You don't
I
have
just
to.
put it in the Hangout chat.
Yeah.
Oh, Sophie just put it in the chat window.
Cool. Yeah. Yeah, maybe like a little more than 5 X's
Okay.
away.
Like
Yeah.
there. So for now, we'll just have these two. That's fine. And then JP, do you have access to that map?
I do.
Can you see it?
Mm-hmm.
Will you draw using the scribble tool the sort of border? So this road seems to be like the only kind of tenuous extension of whatever kingdom or empire you guys are citizens of. So will you draw the border between the civilized lands that kind of follow that road or that road passes through and the rest of the frontier, the wilderness essentially? So draw a line that kind of
Okay.
distinguishes those two places.
How do I use the scribble tool?
Go up to, there's a little sort of next to the pointer arrow. You select
line. Okay, I got it. Yep. Okay, so have we determined, is this settlement like the last stop on this road, or does the road keep going like more north?
what do you think? Totally up to you.
I mean, I guess if we're on the edge, then we can just sort of split it like that.
Sure, great. So that implies to me that down here in the lower right, that's probably a settled area if it's not wilderness. So maybe maybe we can have, we don't have to do it now, but maybe there's a road that goes off that way and there might be some other villages and stuff down there.
Cool.
Anonymous tiger. What does it say? All of a sudden it says anonymous tiger.
Oh yeah, we're each different animals in here looking.
Oh, I see. Okay.
I'm a tiger.
Okay, so there we have our delineation between the wilderness and civilization. Great, we got the settlement. Now, Riley, moving on to you, you're going to roll a couple things to tell us something about this settlement.
Sure.
I'm thinking seems like it's a, well, I don't know, do you guys think it's a town or a city?
The one up the northerly one?
Yeah.
I feel like that would be the city, right?
Okay. Okay, so we'll say it's a city. Great.
Because of its access, it's closer to the water, doesn't that usually how it goes?
Yep.
I guess they're both close to the water.
Okay, so actually we're going to, I'm going to have everybody roll a d10. And Donna, what'd you get?
I got a 10.
Okay.
Possible?
That is possible. It is possible. It's a 10-sided die.
Oh wait, no, it's a 1. Okay, it's a 1.
Okay, yes, got it. Okay. And then will you roll a d10? Or actually, I'm going to go right down the line. Jan, if you roll a d10, what do you get? You might be muted.
I got a 10. I got a 10.
Okay. JP?
6.
Riley,
1.
Sophie,
9.
okay, and then I'm going to need you all to do that again. Donna,
Got a 10.
Jan, I need you to
3.
roll 3.
Yep.
Okay, JP,
1 for me. 1.
Riley,
3.
Sophie,
5.
so I got 1, 2, 3. Okay, we're not done yet. Donna, again.
5.
5.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Jan,
Yes.
D10.
Oh, again?
Yeah, sorry.
4.
We're generating the city, and the city's kind of big, so there's lots of stuff to roll.
4.
I will report back shortly. Okay, well, that makes sense. You just rolled disease, and we already know cities are diseased. JP,
10.
Riley.
8.
Oh, man. Sophie,
1.
Donna,
2.
Jan.
I got a 4 again.
Oh, my. This is bad news.
Wait, it's a 7.
Wait, what?
It's a 7. It's not a 4. Sorry.
Oh, my God. This city's on the verge of collapse. And JP?
A 1.
And Riley?
8.
8?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Wow. Okay, guys. So here's the deal with this city. Where do I start? Okay, so these are the things that distinguish this city. When people think of this city, these are the things they think about. There's an idiosyncratic hierarchy or organization to the whole thing. So keep that in mind. There's something different about the way the city is organized in terms of its political structure. Okay, different than the rest of the kingdom. There's an abundance of food. In this case, because of its location, I'm going to say it's like fish or something like that, right? Or if somebody has a better idea, great. But for whatever reason, maybe that's why this city grew up where it did. There's a lot of food available. It's fortified, so there's usually a reason for that. There's a reason that it had to be fortified, which means if it's a city, that probably means stone walls. There's a renowned distinct natural feature. There's something about the landscape that you can see from a distance that's just super distinctive. Anything jumped to anybody's mind about that? No, we can keep that in mind.
Is
There's
it on
also-
a cliff?
Sure. Okay. Awesome.
If we're right here next to the...
Yeah. So what's really distinctive about this cliff? Is it super high? Is it a particular color? Is there some shape to it?
It's really high.
There could be a natural arch leading out into the ocean.
Nice. Sweet. I'm going to run with both of those things. So we're talking. It is on the verge of some sheer cliffs, and then there's some kind of natural stone arch leading out into the ocean. Excellent. It's also renowned for the fact that it was built upon, or within it exist some ancient ruins within the city itself. And it is defensible due to the terrain where it's located. And I mean, we've already established the cliffs. So that's one of the reasons. And maybe, in fact, I'm going to take that city and I'm going to move it down here. Is that cool with everyone? So it's got these cliffs on 3 sides. and somehow access to the water, which is where it gets all the fish. Okay, so those are all the things that people, when they think about this city, those are the things that stand out to them, right? And also, that's a good basis for us to come up with a name for the city. You know, we think about cliffs and archways and ancient ruins. If we come up with a simple English name, we can run that through the translator and get a name for the city. So you can think about that. Now, these are the problems with this city. There is disease. We've established that there's a plague that's somehow affecting everyone. This city is lawless. Nobody's really keeping order, or whoever is trying to keep order is having a hard time doing it. So it's a real frontier town in that sense. There's a shortage of salt, which is kind of a luxury good, and maybe the people who are, but then the nice thing about that for you is that if you find any salt deposits or something in the wild, that could be a source of potential income. There's unrest. So not only is it lawless, but the people are protesting or complaining or on the verge potentially of revolting in some way. And there's also a shortage of iron, which makes the acquisition of, so that hatchet is more valuable, right? I'm going to say that's going to impact the marketplace prices to some degree. Not for this initial purchase you guys are doing, but in the future. Okay. So that's what we're dealing with here. Now the city has a number of different districts that we're not going to, I'll generate those, you know, as part of my homework. So we're not going to go into that detail now, but in one of those districts, there is some kind of shop where somebody might possibly want to take a magical scroll off the hands of this dwarf. Jan, what kind of, or is it an individual? Maybe it's not a shop. Who do you think would want to possibly pay you money for this spell scroll?
Let's see. Well, it would be a wizard, and I guess if is the dominant religion holding sway here if we're off in the borderlands?
I think that because it's a lawless border city, that maybe the dominant religion doesn't have a lot of power here.
Right.
And it might be exactly the kind of place where a wizard would run away to get away from that.
Yeah. So I think that my dwarf has some knowledge and dealings with shady characters. So she would go off and find whatever kind of a wizard that she's. I guess if she's sort of a sword for hire, then maybe she's heard of or worked with this wizard before, and knows that they would probably pay for something that looks as magical as this does.
Okay, I'm going to ask you to, everybody's going to roll some dice to help us figure out a little bit about this wizard, a little bit more. So, could everybody please roll a d12? And I'll start with Donna.
Here it is. Okay. 2.
Okay.
11.
Okay.
10.
Okay.
9.
Okay. Sophie.
4.
Okay. And if let's see, Donna, Jan, and JP, if you guys could roll the percentile dice, the D100.
85.
76.
48.
And then Riley and Sophie, could you guys each roll the personnel dice twice?
Sure. 23. 81.
Uh,
89 and 34.
89 and 34.
Yep.
Okay, Jan, is this what heritage does this wizard have? Human.
What heritage?
Yeah, human, halfling.
Oh,
Dwarf.
I think a human wizard.
Okay.
Yeah.
And gender.
Male.
Okay. So this is Fabricio, the wizard, and Fabricio is known around the city because he is often seen coming and going on a flying lizard that's about the size of a small pony. So he'll flap into town, and does he have like a particular place that he hangs out, or does he just kind of like show up in a public plaza?
Oh, that's a good question. I think he actually doesn't like to be known where he hangs out, but I happen to know that in the back of an old tower that nobody can access, he lands his lizard when people aren't watching, and he's got a little hangout over there.
Okay, great.
If that's legit.
Yeah, absolutely. When people see him show up, it adds to a general sense of there's already sort of distrust of wizards, and there's already a kind of sense of a city on the verge of chaos. So whenever Fabricio sort of flaps over the walls, it does not fill anybody with good feelings. It kind of adds to the sense of agitation and anxiety in the city. And you know where to find him. I'm going to say at night. And here on the coast, it's like misty and cold and wet. The cobblestones are kind of slick with water. And you show up with this scroll in your hand. What does the scroll look like?
It's sort of a tattered calfskin or some other animal scroll, kind of greasy and but definitely written in some kind of a language that looks like a magic user of some sort would use.
All right. So he. How do you approach Fabricio with this offer? What's your basic mode of negotiation here?
Well, I haul myself up the crumbling back stairs of the tower, and I shout I whisper his name through the window. Fabricio, I've got something you want. I've got it over here. You're really gonna want this. Just me.
I don't want to go over there. Come in. So you have to climb in through the window.
Yeah. So I look around to see if anyone's watching me. And then
nobody appears to be watching you.
I crawl in through the window and I look carefully to see if I need to jump out there real quick, how I'm going to do it.
Looking for just in case
just in case things go bad.
Well, one thing that you do know about Fabrizio is that he's never gone back on his word. That's his reputation. There's lots of stories about him, and people don't trust him, simply because he's a wizard. But
yeah,
every dealing you've ever had with him, he has appeared to have treated you fairly. But of course, who knows? When you are a practitioner of the arcane arts, it's hard to feel completely comfortable. So when you step in, when you step through the window, all of a sudden the room is illuminated. So it's like from the outside, the interior of the room looked sort of pitch black. But when you pull yourself through that window, it's like you're pulling yourself through an invisible veil. And when you get inside, it's well lit.
Yeah.
He has a little. There's a little iron portable brazier, like a little iron bowl on a tripod that he's just burning some sticks of wood in. It's just like a natural fire, not a magical fire, but something was keeping that light within the room. And his lizard mount is kind of curled up in one corner, and when you climb in through the window, it kind of raises its head and kind of blinks and looks in your direction, and then looks at its master. And then kind of when it senses that its master is not worried or tense, it kind of puts its head back down and shuffles its leathery wings. And Fabricio is sitting on a stone, the remains of a stone stairway. And he's got a little sleeping area back there, and he's got like a portable, it's like a leather case that's open, like a portmanteau, subdivided into little sort of boxes within that, with various kind of like, herbs and possibly spell components in there. And he appeared to be kind of fiddling with them when you climbed in through the window. Oh, and we don't even have a name for you yet.
No.
So he's about to say your name, and you are a female dwarf.
Yeah. Do you have a table in front of you?
I do. Let me. Okay.
Oh.
You can modify this, but I'm going to give you Amu, AAMU.
Is that Finnish?
Yes.
Nice.
Amu. Let me see this thing you've brought. So he takes it from you and he unrolls it. And would you roll 1d12 for me?
And I said to him, you told me that if I ever found anything that would be of interest to you, that I should bring it to you, and I did. And this is it. Isn't it just what you wanted?
We shall.
7. I got a 7.
You got a 7? All right. And then JP, would you roll percentile dice?
Five.
And then Riley, would you roll percentile dice? Oh, Riley's not there. Sophie, would you roll percentile dice, please?
24.
Thank you. Okay. And then Jan, would you make a luck roll?
So just what is it? 2 dice, 2d6.
Oh yeah.
Minus.
Great. So,
9.
I don't think JP's ever played this kind of game before. So the basic roll is 2d6. You add them up and you add your modifier.
Yep.
10 or higher is a success.
Good.
7 to 9 is success with a trade-off. 6 or lower is not a success. And Jan is willing to get lucky.
I rolled a 9, and I have a -1 modifier.
So you got an 8.
So, I got an 8.
Okay, so you're hoping things will go your way. That's the trigger for Get Lucky. And on a
Yep.
7 and a 9, it says they do, but there's a trade-off of the judge's choosing. So he is interested in this. He says, you can't read this, can you, Amo?
I know it's real.
Where did you
I
find it?
won't lie to you. What?
Where did you find it?
I didn't find it so much as it became mine. Over on the edge of town in the ditch by the moat.
I wonder what happened to its original owner.
Well, they didn't need it anymore.
Look here, my friend, and he turns it around and he points to the kind of runes or whatever are written across the top of it. It's written in a lyric, and the translation is "Beast of Dust." What do you think one could do with that sort of spell?
Well, perhaps you know better than I do, being a wizard, but maybe making a beast out of dust, like dance for you. It sounds good.
For entertainment, is that what you would use such a spell for?
Oh, if I had a beast of dust, well, I would have it follow me and watch my back.
Ah, interesting. Oh, and why do you wish to part with this item?
The same reason I always bring you whatever I find is I need silver.
This is the bargain I will strike with you, for I have no coin and have little use for it. In addition, it would be impossible to put a price on such a valuable object as this. You leave this scroll with me, and in return, I will compensate you for any other such items you return with. And now, as a token of my good faith, I can offer you any one of these. And he gestures towards his little case, and he points to 3 different little compartments, and each one of them holds a different kind of charm. He says, I will trade you now one of these charms for this scroll, with the agreement that in the future you will bring items of magical interest to me.
But who's going to give me silver for these charms?
That's what you would
If you don't give me the silver, who will give me the silver?
You may turn around and sell one of these charms for money, but I would wager, and I'm not the wagering sort, that holding on to a magical charm and taking advantage of its benefit would be of great use to you, since I understand you will be soon venturing into the wilds.
What kind of charms are these?
Will you please roll a d12?
9.
JP, will you roll a d12 as well?
2.
And Riley.
Oh shoot! 4.
This one would grant you greater alacrity.
What's that mean?
Shall we say the ability to react to things with speed,
Oh,
puissance, and it's a it's a little it's like a little metal sort of trapezoid thing, and each one of these things is on like a little like woven piece of fiber of some kind. This one would grant you greater alacrity. This one would cause those who dislike you to perhaps put aside their dislike for a moment. It's very convincing. Do you smell it? And it smells like kind of sandalwood. It's like a kind of ovoid of wood, of oily looking wood. That might dissuade people from harming you. And the last is simply a token of luck, and it's a rabbit's foot.
Well, will those who dislike me like me for a little while every time?
Let us say that in moments of extreme tension, it may not be of much use, but if one with whom you are interacting might choose one way or the other, they would choose the way that would be less offensive to you.
Well, I think in this case, I probably need luck more than anything else. I'll take the rabbit's foot.
Excellent choice. I will keep this scroll, and it's actually, he's kind of spirited away. You don't even see it anymore. And I will look into acquiring some currency so that I may compensate you for any items of arcane interest that you return with.
And no coins?
Let me see. And he stands up and he goes over. There's a shelf with like little bags and stuff, and he kind of pulls out some feathers, and then he's shuffling through a bag of pebbles, and then roll luck again.
7.
And he pulls out 7 silver pieces.
Oh boy!
And gives them to you.
What's this guy's name?
Fabrizio.
Thank you, Fabrizio. Thank you. I knew I could count on you.
All that for 7 silver pieces. Okay, cut back to the rest of it. Has anybody made any final marketplace decisions?
Can you rations? That's like 1 day of.
Yeah, 1 ration is 1 day's worth of food.
Is 1 day.
But when you buy rations, you get I think it's
7
uses. So one purchase of rations gets you 7 days worth, a week's worth.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
So when I rolled my rations and I rolled 1.
That was 1 use. That's 1
use.
day. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm gonna buy more rations.
You can also, depending on your background, and you guys get to sort of invent that for your character, you can also forage in the wild when you're out there if it seems like good foraging territory. So good rations is a great idea, just letting you know that you can also go hunting for food as well.
I want a fishing pole.
Sweet.
And a bedroll.
Yeah.
That's it.
Good choice. Does everybody feel okay with their purchases?
I haven't done it.
I'm gonna buy a rope and a bedroll. But so I only have 5 silver left, and sorry, what was the dwarf's name again?
Amu.
Amu. Do you have enough to purchase adventuring gear?
I do, but I was hoping to buy a spear. That's all I have is a dumbass hatchet.
But it's your favorite weapon. Shouldn't you just buy another hatchet?
That's true. Probably a good idea.
I think a brace of hatchets might not be a bad idea.
Yeah.
Jason, I'm gonna buy a tent also.
Wow, how much is a tent?
7.
Sweet.
Yeah.
You're gonna be sleeping in style.
Yeah.
If we're not getting adventuring gear, can we just buy torches?
Can you just buy torches? Is that what you said?
Yeah, I don't see them on here.
Yeah, they're in the illumination. There's 2 pages to the marketplace, and there's a category
Oh,
called.
I only printed the front.
Yeah, there's. I can tell you how much torches are. They're torches will cost you 3. They weigh 1, and you get 3 uses for a. So it's like 3 torches basically, and each use has a duration of 3, so they'll slowly burn down. Maybe we should figure out the names of everybody else here. Good time to do that. Donna, you're human, right?
Yes.
Male or female?
Male.
Claudio.
Ah.
Claudio with an accent on the A.
Okay.
JP, you're halfling? We usually assume that halflings have the same language as
Yeah, that's good.
Is that cool? Okay.
Yeah.
Teodosio. Teodosio. Maybe
One
they
more
call
time for me.
Teodosio.
Uh-huh.
Teodosio or Teodosio. Maybe the people call you Teo for short or something.
Cool.
Riley. Evaristo.
Wow.
Evaristo.
Evaristo.
Yep.
What was Donna's name again?
Donna's name was Claudio.
Can everybody say their names?
Hold on, we got Sophie's the last person here.
Oh yeah.
Sophie,
Sorry,
female,
what am I
right?
rolling again?
You're not rolling. I'm just taking the first name off this random generator.
Sure. Female, human.
Safira, Safira. Yeah, so actually this is a great opportunity. So Amu arrives back at whatever the meeting place where you guys are, where you guys have sort of gotten together to make your plans for this kind of foray into the wild. Who has the highest charisma? Who's got a high charisma?
I have 14.
Anybody have higher than that?
I have 15.
Ooh. Okay, so Teodosio. What is the place where you guys have gathered? Like, what kind of is it? So it's night. It's kind of cold on the seacoast. I've described the city a little bit to you. So, what kind of it could be a like a business, like a tavern or an inn, or some other kind of. It could be an abandoned building that you guys meet in. I don't know. What do you think would make sense for where you would meet up?
You said that there was a ancient ruin in the city. Is it maybe there's a spot in the ruin?
Okay, cool. Great. What are any particular visuals that come to mind when you think about that? Underground, above ground.
Yeah, maybe like an underground. Yeah, like there's a collapsed building that if you go under it, it's like the cellar of a collapsed building.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So Amu comes in and shakes off the wet from outside, and Evaristo, what's your source of heat and light in this basement, this cellar-like space?
Huh. Well,
Or is there? Are you keeping it totally dark? There doesn't have to be a source of heat and light.
let's say there's a fireplace.
Like one that you've cobbled together, or one that was already
Maybe that
there?
was part of the ruin.
Cool. And what have you just kind of thrown into the fire to feed it? What fuel have you just thrown into the fire?
Log.
Is it like firewood that you found somewhere? Is it
Yeah.
that you stole from somebody's stack of firewood, or did you come by it by legit?
No. I went out and chopped down some. I chopped down a tree, and then chopped it up. And
Did you chop it up, or did Amu with the hatchet chop it up?
I did it.
With what?
Oh yeah, I don't have a.
You could sort of beat it into submission with your staff, I guess.
Well, hopefully Amu would have agreed to do that. I guess.
Amu, would you have chop some wood for a fire?
With my favorite weapon, sure.
Okay. Anyway, so you did that at some point in the past, and Evaristo, when you turn around upon Amu's entrance, and so the firelight's on you, and you turn to look, will you describe your character to us?
Yeah, I am very handsome, with a mustache, a thin mustache, like a very thin mustache, and the this part of my head is bald, and
But you have a cap, right?
yeah, but it's off right now.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, and I've got the what was it called, the cassock. Yeah, it's brown, and a big necklace of those snail shell, like large beads, I guess. And yeah, my eyes are very bright.
So the firelight catches your eyes, and what do you say to Amu when she comes into the room?
Oh, were you able to sell it?
Well, not really. He didn't give me much for it, but next time. He says next time always, and he said next time again.
Oh. Did he tell you what it was?
Nope.
All right. Well, next time.
Amu, are you openly wearing the rabbit's foot, or have you hidden it somewhere?
Oh, I hid it away.
Okay. And when we turn and look at you as you come in, can you describe your appearance to us?
My appearance?
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys can see this. It's kind of, I was working on drawing, kind of like a scruffy looking, distrustful, kind of a hunched over dwarf.
Excellent. That's sort of.
She's got one eye that's like Popeye, because she's got a bright eye and a squint eye.
Oh yes.
So she's basically Popeye. But she's also got a 5 charisma.
Excellent. Teodosio. Is it Teodosio or Teodosio? You're muted. It's okay.
How about we just go with Tio?
Tio. Okay. What are you doing in the room?
Probably playing in the dirt. moving some dirt around.
What does that look like? Just
like palms down, spiraling the dirt.
like there's an area of the ground where there's no stones. It's just
Yeah.
And you're drawing a
Yes.
spiral in it.
Yes.
Right? Are you and what are you wearing? What do we see when we look at you?
I am a short and skinny. I'm short even for a halfling. With an oversized chainmail tunic thing.
Yeah.
And my hair is wild, and I don't know if even you would see that I had missing teeth, but even I have a long mustache and beard, just like totally out of control hair. And I guess the other distinguishing thing is coming out from the chainmail, you see like spiraled tattoos on my arms.
Nice.
And you can't really see like where they begin and end because I'm covered in dirt.
So Hobbit hippie is what I'm seeing here.
Yeah.
What is the chainmail like? Nicely maintained? Is it rusty? Is it dirty?
I would say it looks like I found it somewhere, and it's not maintained in any way.
And it doesn't quite fit you.
It doesn't quite. It's a little big. Yeah.
It's a little big, but not human size. Maybe a dwarf or
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. That's great. Do you have any reaction to this exchange?
I don't think so.
Okay.
No.
Yeah.
Happy playing in my dirt.
Claudio, how about you? Where are you, and what do you look like?
So I'm just sitting next to the fire watching those two have their conversation. I am on the larger side, so I dress minimally, but I'm like pretty bulky, so I'm proud of it. And I've got long hair that actually I tie back into like a braid. And yeah, my goatee also is like, it's not just the goatee, it's also got like a little bit of a braid down here too.
Oh, nice.
And then so I'm just sitting and I'm cleaning my spear. Try to keep everything really nice and clean and polished, and just listening.
Is there anything distinctive about your what is it? So the spear is your favorite weapon.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything, what's distinctive about it? Like what separates it from the common everyday spears that people might find in a weaponsmith shop?
Oh, nothing really. It's just that since I've been using it, I just got used to the way that the grip stuff fits my hands properly, and I get bored sometimes, so I just sort of like scratch doodles into the wood foldy part of it.
Uh-huh. So if this spear broke, any other spear would do. Is that fair to say? Like, is the spear just a tool?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So nothing special. The whole point is you just really know how to use spears.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's my thing.
Great. And is there anything distinctive about your leather armor?
Well, I've got a belt. And like the straps go like this. But that's it.
Is it the style of is it a common style for this kingdom, or is it something of your particular, the people that you come from?
I think it is a common style, but there's a lot of different styles of wearing outfits amongst fighters too. So I'm choosing to be the more like more like exposed, like minimal look of like I'm just me and my like strength.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
So that's great. You're not your gear. You're
Right.
awesome. Great. Saphira, same question. Where are you, and what do you? How do you appear?
So we're in like a basement situation.
Yeah, I'm picturing a kind of low ceiling stone cellar. It sounds like there's some of the floor, the flagstones are missing, and there's exposed dirt. Burning some firewood. Maybe there's like a little stack of firewood near the fire. There's ancient. It's a really ancient, and I'm gonna say it's like Citizen Kane size fireplace, but you guys have just got like a little fire burning in it. It's a little smoky. Maybe the chimney itself is a little stopped up, but so some of the smoke's coming out in the room, and there's just that amount of light, and then the rest of the place is pretty dark. There's like dripping, the sound of dripping water. There's like a light rain falling outside.
Okay. So I'm like watching this conversation, and I like ask if I can sort of like feel the rabbit fur just to get the vibe.
I think the rabbit, you mean the rabbit foot?
Yeah.
He's got it hidden away. She's got it hidden away.
We haven't. Okay, right. Okay, well, I'm very
Everybody,
curious.
as far as you know,
Yeah.
as far as you guys know, the deal, nothing happened, and the scroll's gone, and the wizard has promised some future reward.
Something next time, right? Okay. So, well, then I'm just like hanging back and listening to this conversation. I'm wearing like a kind of a flowy jumpsuit. Because I have this sweet ass belt that has a sort of like abstracted snail on it, and so it's sort of like high belted to sort of show off my shiny object.
Nice.
And I have sort of like mid-length, like a little bit frazzled hair.
Great. And I forget. Oh, you have like a club or something?
Yeah.
What's your?
Yeah, I have a club.
What does that look like?
It's just like a dark hardwood from maybe a swampier region.
Okay. What is it like? Is it actually like does it look like a chunk, like a branch, or is it been shaped?
Yeah. It just looks like a sort of gnarled piece of hardwood that was obviously, since it's not super soft, it was obviously like kind of difficult to carve, and it's sort of smoothed.
Okay, great. Excellent. Who has the highest intelligence amongst all of you? Anybody have anything over a 10?
I have a 10.
I have 13.
Oh, all right. Claudio.
Cloudy. Yep.
So Claudio, I think you have been thinking about where you guys are going to go, about where you're going to venture. Before you sort of propose that idea, you each are going to add a region to the map. So the way that's going to work is if you can get access to the map, starting with you, Donna. Can you get access to it?
It's actually kind of hard for.
I guess. Don't worry about it.
Okay, I'm on my phone. I might mess it up.
Yeah, don't worry about it. Jan,
Okay.
Can you access the map?
Yeah, I think so.
So you're going to add a. Well, I guess the first question is, what kind of terrain dominates the wilderness? There's going to be different kind of regions and pockets of different terrain within it, but if you look out over the wilderness,
Right.
what's the predominant kind of look?
Let's say like rocky hills.
Okay.
that have lots of little valleys in between. I don't need to add that much detail, but lots of little valleys in between with other regions in between the hills.
Got it. Just adding that note to the map. Okay, so knowing that predominantly when we look at our map, let me see if I can show you guys that. Is everybody seeing that? No. There. You see that?
Yep.
Moving over to JP. JP, you can draw an outline for some sort of subsection of this vast wilderness that is like a distinctive, different kind of terrain. It could be the same rocky hills, but there's something really different about the. Maybe there's a forest also on top of the rocky hills, or the rocky hills could stop and it could turn into some other kind of terrain. So go ahead and outline some area there.
Okay. Maybe there's like a valley that turns into a swamp.
Yeah, great. We got to get some swamp in there.
Yeah.
And is that the swamp? Like the valley leads towards that, or that is the valley?
I mean, maybe I don't. Would it be fair to say that like all along the coast here, like is this kind of looks swampy? Sorry
Sure. Yeah.
I don't know if you can delete.
Yeah, I can. That thing.
Yeah. Just kind of.
Yeah. So this whole area is swamp.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know why it's orange. Or maybe because you drew it. Maybe
because
Tiger. I don't care. Doesn't matter. Okay, so this whole area is swamp. Excellent. Riley, do you want to add any mix up the terrain a little bit?
Oh, sorry if I'm.
I mean, would it make sense to have the swampland just like all continue all the way?
Like to take that all the way this way?
Yeah, all the way around.
Sure. And all the way out onto the peninsula too?
Or maybe maybe our city is like part of in the swamp.
But the cliffs, but maybe risen up out of the swamp. The cliffs.
Yeah, right.
So how about if the swamp? I'm going to make a suggestion here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to continue that line, and then kind of go around the city like that.
Oh yeah.
In fact, how about this, dudes? Now that I'm looking at this, how about if we make this road cross a bridge right there?
Oh, cool.
Because nobody wants to take the road through the swamp, right? So this is why the city is so defensible. Is there's some kind of body of water and there's a bridge that crosses to the top of the cliffs. But then when you stand on these cliffs and you look out, this is all swamp down here. Is that cool?
Maybe the bridge is the natural arch.
Oh, yes, indeed. Exactly right. Sophie, want to mix up the terrain at all? Any other thing occur to you?
Maybe like a canyon.
A canyon?
Mm-hmm. I lost my note. Are we thinking like are the cliffs up to the north? Is the whole edge of the ocean or whatever this body of water is it all cliffs? or like to the north, is it more like lower to the ground?
I think that if it's all wetland there, that it I mean, I guess that's a good question. Does it it could very easily be a elevated raised body of land that has like a freshwater wetland and then drops off into the ocean, or it could be a wetland that, you know, does that kind of transition between freshwater and saltwater. I don't know if that's technically a fen. You can make that call.
One idea would be if salt water is, I mean, if salt is a shortage, then maybe that's a freshwater lake or something like that.
Oh, this whole body of water.
It could be a lake.
Yeah, totally.
Or what do you call it when a lake goes into the ocean?
Is that an estuary? No.
It could be. But if salt is scarce,
yeah,
like maybe it would be freshwater.
Yeah, great. Let's go with that. It's a Great Lake.
Yeah.
Well, we can add more terrain. Sophie, did you have any particular idea? Because we can.
No, I was just maybe there's somewhere that there's actually like a taller mountain range or something.
Yeah. So think about that, and feel free to add it at your leisure. And now everybody's going to roll a random place that they're going to add to the map. So Donna, and the way you roll a random place is you roll a d12 first.
D12.
Yep.
6.
6. Okay, and then I need you to roll D100 twice.
Cool. Okay, 37 and 52.
Okay. So there's a place somewhere here called the Grove of the Heart. So I know you can't draw on the map, but looking at the whole map, you can sort of describe where you want that to go. Or think about that. Jan, same deal. Roll a d12. Sorry, you're muted.
5.
Okay.
And then percentile.
So percentile twice, yeah.
3 and 69.
There's a place called the Queen's Beach. Don't know why it's called that, but we'll find out.
Should I put it on the map?
Yeah, go ahead and add the Queen's Beach. JP, D12.
3.
Okay, and then percentile dice twice.
94. And then 63.
The Thorny Rise.
Okay.
Riley.
9, 72, 29.
And then in your case, roll the percentile dice one more time.
62.
Okay. Huh. Shrine of the Endless Muck. That sounds like it might be related to your
Wow.
deity there.
Cool.
And Sophie. D12 followed by percentile dice.
10. 12. 16.
Sorry, last one was 16.
16.
Cave of the Bright Crystal. Okay. So, what do we got here? We got our mountain range. Excellent. We got the Queen's Beach over here. Oh, so the coastline goes down towards the water there.
Yeah, I guess I was picturing the swampland, wetland to start heading, like maybe the cliffs start to end where our town is, our city is,
Got it.
and then it starts to drop off from there.
Yep. So this whole upper area is all closer to the water level, like descends down.
Yeah, maybe with occasional like spires or rocks sticking out of it, but it's lower down. And the
Right.
Queen's Beach, I was thinking maybe was that whole little island.
Okay, great. And the Thorny Rise, JP, that was you, right?
Yep.
Is that a really large area where the ground goes up, or is it like a smaller?
I guess I was thinking of like maybe if it's swamp, or it's a place that would be a good, like, how we're moving out of civilization, like it's a good barrier in between the wilder parts of this area, and it's like a natural kind of barrier.
Okay, like a transitional.
Yeah.
And is it like a raised, like a ridge of land, or is it just like an enormous thorny bramble, or what's the actual physical aspect?
I guess maybe it's like a if it's called the Thorny Rise, like a plateau with just a bramble on top.
Okay, cool.
Would it be cool to stretch it out along that line that was drawn earlier? Kind of like between civilization and the wildlands.
Sure.
Seems like that could be kind of cool.
Like, do you mean along the road or along this line here?
Along the line that line there.
Okay, like to run up along the side of it. Okay.
Yeah, like it could be a long barrier, sort of like you're talking about. Is that what you meant?
Yeah,
Like,
I mean, yeah, sure, yeah.
Like that?
Well, I thought that it kind of could be the line that was drawn earlier, but it doesn't matter.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. However.
Yep.
Yeah, you can move it around wherever.
We'll say it's just like a transitional zone there between. Okay, great. Cool. We got our village here. Cave of the Bright Crystal. Ooh, look at that. The Shrine of Endless Muck is up at the top. Excellent. Oh, there's even a little icon made for it. Excellent. Okay, that must be an important religious site for some reason. Riley, any ideas about that? Any thoughts?
Well, I wanted to find the place where it seemed like it would be surrounded by as much wetlands as possible, but so maybe it makes more sense to be somewhere else. I think like you, if you're there and you look in all directions, you wouldn't be able to see anything but muck, right?
You wouldn't be able to see what?
Anything but muck.
Yeah, sure.
So I don't know. Does that seem like the right place?
Yeah, no,
I think it's good.
it's great. It's fantastic. I also like it as a kind of. I mean, this is just raising all kinds of questions about. Are you guys on some kind of pilgrimage?
Right. That would make sense in a way, wouldn't it?
I mean, you've come, or maybe does anybody feel like they're local, or have you guys come from far away?
I'm definitely not local.
Okay. JP.
I was maybe we're searching for
Yeah.
the shrine.
Great. And are you from around here, or did you come from far away?
I imagine I can be local.
Okay.
Little swamp halfling, yeah.
And Saphira, are you from around here? Or did you come from?
No, I'm from away.
Okay, so it sounds like Teo is the local representative, or at least Caracol's a local Caracolian, and maybe that explains his extreme different appearance with these tattoos and his wild hair. Like he is a frontier adherent of your god, and maybe I'm gonna say it's Teo who has some knowledge of the fact that the shrine is out there, and maybe that's one of the reasons you guys came here. But there's sorry,
He's our contact. It's like he's our contact here or something.
exactly. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, it's the two of you guys that have the highest charismas. Is that right?
Me and Tio.
Yeah. So how did you fall in with these two fighters with Amu and Claudio?
I mean, does it make sense that we needed to like hire some protection or?
Yeah, totally. I mean, you could also just say you could convince them to accompany you, and then they get to keep a share of whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm in it for. And I think that I maybe am also somewhat local and know something about traversing the swamps and some of the dangers and stuff.
Great. Claudio, are you from around here?
Yeah, I think I'm from that settlement over, so I'm not too far away.
Okay.
I haven't traveled too far.
The smaller town to the south?
South, yeah.
Okay, great. Does anybody want to add anything else to this map at this point? If anything occurred to you? We're going to also, as you explore, you'll find things that aren't on this map, obviously. There's every time you travel somewhere, there's a chance you're going to find something. These are just the most well-known things. I guess I'll ask Saphira, what have you heard about the Cave of the Bright Crystal? Is this a place that you heard of back home and you've can't come this far? I mean, like, why is that place significant?
I think that it's like crystal plural, so it's maybe like a more of a natural resource than like a singular object there.
Okay.
That has given it the name.
Did you say a crystal pearl?
No, like plural.
Oh, plural. Okay, got it. Yeah.
Right, so it's like crystalline structures throughout, so there's an interest in maybe seeing like what it could be used for, but it's still so treacherous to get out there that people haven't like quite bothered yet to explore it.
But it is there's something about this bright crystal that's valuable.
Yeah, I mean, I think that like some, like a few adventurers have brought some of it back. But there's been so few like sort of samples taken of it. I mean, like it has a glow to it, and people are trying to figure out like what, you know, if it has magical properties.
Okay, great. So potential source of. So, but the glow, is it bright enough to actually like light up a room? Would people use it for utilitarian purposes?
Yeah, sure.
So potential. But generally more of a source of like interest and research for people that are interested in trying to discover its properties.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. Well, Claudio, you are from nearby, and you've heard these stories. People of the Caracolians have sort of described their desire to find the shrine of the endless muck. And you know about this cave of bright crystal, and also, I mean, who knows what else lies out there in the wilds. But in your estimation, as a local and the person with the most acute wit, let's say, what do you think would be the best course of action in terms of your first outing?
I'd suggest following the wetlands north. Given that I'm unsure that we can cross the terrain in our current states, or cross that territory to go west, and looking at everyone's experience and like the comfort levels and their most pressing desires, I say that we can make it to the shrine within, a few weeks.
Yeah, I'm going to say, let's see your estimate. And you're saying to largely go along the outside of the wetland or go through the wetland?
I think it is better to go through the outside, unless there's no like rivers. Yeah.
So this is a conversation you guys are having in this damp cellar. What do the Caracolians think of this idea of either crossing the wetland or skirting it?
I think our magic is stronger in the wetland. Not
Because you
that that's
trust your
necessarily
God.
objectively true, but that is what I believe.
And Amu, what is the idea of crossing a kind of marshy, damp? You're not a person of great stature. Your legs aren't that long. What is the idea of what is the prospect of crossing a kind of swampy area? How does that make you feel?
Well, as long as I get paid, I'll go. But it's in the back of my mind. I'm thinking these three are not going to make it. I think we would need some sort of a raft, or there's always the stories of the snail riders, people who manage to make it through the swamp on the backs of giant snails.
Oh, yes.
But we'd have to make contact with them, and they're pretty cagey.
Are they actually like are they equivalent of like kind of marsh rangers, or are they an actual separate kind of culture of their own? Are they like humans who venture out and ride snails around, or are they their own kind of discrete group?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think that if they are humans, that they probably wouldn't have much doings with the folks over here in town, but kind of be their own separate culture.
with like their own little settlements out there, villages perhaps of.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, Cavallero Caracol is how you would say the snail rider. Snail knights is almost what that makes me think of. But are you you're picturing? It's not. Do they live with sort of simpler means out there?
Maybe just maybe it's maybe to some eyes it would seem simpler, but to others it would they have a fantastic lifestyle. But yeah, they probably don't have the same system of or the same types of luxuries that people in the outside world appreciate. They probably have different ones.
Got it. And Tio, you're the person who has the most experience. I mean, you're a Caracolian and you're actually from here, or you've lived here for a while. So of everybody in this whole party, you're the person who's probably spent the most time in that wetland. I don't know how far you've gone into it, but it seems like, you know, as somebody who believes in Caracol and the tenets of Caracol, that's a place where you would have spent some time. Is there what else besides the snail riders? Are there any other dangers of the wetland or anything else significant about it that comes to mind?
Well, there's probably some snake people that you know, are like a primitive sort of culture that are very territorial that we'd have to watch out for.
And are they? Do they get along with the snail riders, or are they?
I don't imagine so.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when you picture these snake people, what is it that's snaky about them?
Like snakes with arms.
Mostly snakes. Emphasis on the snake.
Yes. Yeah.
And like human size?
Mm-hmm.
So definitely something to watch out for. Have you ever had any run-ins with them?
Maybe I've seen them, but I don't think I would have ever engaged.
Okay. So seen them from a distance. What's your dexterity?
13.
Okay, so you're a relatively sneaky guy. So when you move through those wetlands, you're able to do it with a degree of, stealth. So you've been able to observe them from the distance. Have you ever had any actual dangerous run-in with any kind of creature out there? Or have you managed to basically keep safe?
I imagine I avoid most danger.
Okay. But did anything happen to you by accident, or you maybe find yourself in it? You don't, and no is a perfectly fine answer. If there's anything that's, I'm curious if the wetlands have only been a place of kind of quiet retreat and, a place where you go to meditate or pray, or maybe you worship some other way, or if it's ever presented a kind of problem for you.
I would say my outlook on the wetlands is it's like a place of balance. So there's like the dangerous stuff, and then so it's like both. You have to be aware because like nature can be cool and awesome, but it can also be dangerous and deadly.
Yeah. Okay, great. And the wetland does serve this really interesting ecological function in terms of what it does in the ecosystem in terms of balance. That's really great. And also in terms of transformation. All right, awesome. Do you guys, Saphira and Evaristo, does that idea of the swamp or marshland or wetland being this place of balance conflict at all with your more let's say not necessarily urban backgrounds, but you haven't been out here on the frontier before. Like, what is the more rarefied notion of clerical in how does that tenet basically hold, or is there some difference between your beliefs?
I think I agree with that, but it's more theoretical for me.
Yeah, I think I'm the same. I think maybe like I haven't gotten to really get to really be in a place where that nature is really strong. Maybe that makes sense. Like
Right. Yeah. So you guys are both kind of venturing into new, very real. This is going to become more real than it has been before to you.
yeah, like I want to like see it for what it's really like.
You're going back to Jerusalem.
I guess.
Is this a place of
Riley, are we from the same, like...
I don't know. Do you want us to be from the same place?
Yeah, maybe we came up here together, like, from our, I'm not thinking of the word, from our religious place where we worship or whatever.
Yeah. Sure. Maybe we were sent like for like what, like not like apprentices but would it be like acolytes, or I don't know, sort of younger, like lower on the hierarchy of a religion?
Yeah.
I don't really know.
Yeah, acolyte is one word for that. Yeah.
Okay. And this is like, or maybe this is like part of our training, or we have to go through this like pilgrimage to, gain some kind of awareness or something, and then we go back with like our knowledge or whatever.
Great. So you need to sort of prove yourselves, but this isn't necessarily. Maybe there's other shrines elsewhere in the world that other people have made pilgrimages to, and this particular one is just the one that you've been assigned or that you chose.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe we were like, oh yeah, no, this one, this really dangerous one that people don't usually go to. Let's go to that one.
Okay, awesome. With those things in mind, anybody have any idea for a tenet of clerical? This is also something we can come up in between sessions, but there's this idea of balance. One of the aspects of the god is transformation and change.
I wrote down, just as an idea, transform both friend and foe, because it's sort of neutral, but I don't know, mechanically.
And transform them, just change them for the sake of change?
Yeah, I think that, maybe with friends it just means like therapy, but but like try like almost like a shamanic kind of thing, like guiding people like on their path or something.
And so is this like is there any aspect of conversion to this? Like if you transform somebody, you can show them the way of clerical, or?
Yeah, I mean, I think that is maybe one version of it. I think my character would be maybe, I guess people can interpret it differently. But, I'm just throwing that out there. I don't know.
Okay. We'll start with that. We'll start with transform both friend and foe, and then we might tweak that. And even because we're talking about maybe slightly different perspectives on the religion here, it may be that that Tio might have his own slightly different version of that. That can be his personal tenet versus the one that the more kind of civilized clerics abide by. So we'll keep that in mind. Okay, we're getting close to midnight. So we're not going to embark on our first adventure, but before we stop, you guys have to decide, is that where you're going to head, is to the Shrine of the Endless Muck? Would that be the first kind of destination?
I want to ride a snail.
Now that the idea has been proposed, it's kind of hard to...
Yeah, it seems like a really long journey, so I'm sure that there's lots in between here and there.
And it may also be that you go out for 2 days and then end up having to come back, and you might have to there's a lot of like going out and then coming back when you need to resupply. So it may take a while to get there. So it's a great long-term goal. And then as far as skirting the wetland versus kind of crossing it more directly, does anybody? I think that at least Tio is like, we're going to go through the wetland because that's the way to go, right? Am I right about that? Does anybody else have any? Do you other Caracolians feel the same way?
I do.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's part of the the hazing, right?
Yeah, we really got to feel it.
Okay. Yeah, Amo, did you have a point?
Well, we could go to the Cave of the Bright Crystal and plunder some crystal and use it to buy more supplies, and then we can trade it with the snail riders so that they'll give us some snail mounts because we know they love the crystal.
I was thinking that maybe we do know that the crystal has magical properties, and maybe that's part of why all these wizards are up here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, great. Love it. I mean, Fabricio is probably interested in that crystal, right?
Yes, that's what I'm thinking.
Awesome. So I guess so that's a really great counter proposal, and it's like a more strategic one, right? Like, let's build up some resources before we take this big journey. So do the clerics have any? Are you guys hard set on just setting out on the pilgrimage, or are you open to this possibility?
I'm open to the locals' recommendations. Yes.
Sophia?
It'd be easier going, I think, than going right through the swamp.
So just to be clear, Amu is saying, and as I understand it, is venture to the Cave of the Bright Crystal, see if you can gather some loot, return to the city, cash it in, maybe resupply, get some better gear, and then head out. Is that fair?
Yeah. And the snail riders do love crystal, so that would be something that would get us on our way.
A good bartering tool.
Yeah.
They have horse-sized snails that they ride?
Oh yeah, they do.
Marvelous.
Oh yeah.
Have we established are these snails slow?
I think you're exactly the person to answer that question. When these snails move through the wetland, do they have a uncanny speed, or do they move? Is it mainly about
maybe yeah. So over only in the wetlands can they move like a horse on a path moves a certain distance, so the snail in the wetlands would move that distance, but as soon as a snail exits the wetlands, it's like a snail.
It's like a snail. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah, very limited range on these things. Claudio, what do you think about this idea of going to the Cave of Bright Crystal?
I personally am against this idea, given that my inclinations are not to plunder and destroy natural resources. And I think the snail riders will respect us more if we do things their way.
That's great.
Still, I'll follow the crowd.
I was gonna say, I think it's 4-1. Okay, great. So then that is going to be the first venture, and here. Let me just see here. Okay, and we're not going to do, this is session 0, so we don't do the usual end of session stuff because this was just kind of setting the stage. Between now and next time, I will redraw this map, and I'm going to figure out some of what's in between where you are now in the cave, and probably figure out something about the cave itself, but there's still going to be a lot of room for sort of randomly encountering stuff as you explore. Any questions or comments or ideas?
I feel bad there aren't any cult towers anywhere. Yeah.
Oh. There's got to be a cult tower. Riley, I want you to put a cult tower on the map.
Okay.
Somewhere in this area.
Well, they could also be there. We just haven't stumbled.
That's
true. Yeah.
I think there's
Maybe-
a tower and it sticks up. You got to put at least one tower there, and maybe it belongs to a cult, maybe it doesn't. But there's a tower somewhere.
Let's put it in this mountain range.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Riley, what's your character's name?
Evaristo.
How do you spell that?
EVARISTO.
Okay.
Evaristo. Okay, so that circle right there is where the tower is.
Sticking up out of the mountains.
My anonymous grizzly. Okay,
Am I the grizzly?
you're the grizzly. What? Can you tell me a little bit about the profile of this tower? Like, if we were walking along the edge here, we looked up at the mountains and we saw the tower sticking up.
Yeah.
Is it like a sharp spire? Is it like a squat thing?
It's really thin and really tall.
Okay.
Like really, really, really tall. And yeah, like very thin.
Okay. Like unnaturally, like who built that kind of thing?
Kinda, yeah.
Oh yeah, there is one thing that I forgot to do, which is a quick roll of 2 different civilizations that once, long ago, inhabited the wilderness. So each person roll a d12 for me. And Donna.
2.
Okay. Jan.
9.
JP.
2.
Okay.
7.
Ooh.
8.
And then Donna one more time.
6.
I like how hard you roll that d12. That's good. Okay. So these are the 2. We can work out more details later, but this is good for me to know. The 2 civilizations, ancient civilizations that once inhabited these lands, and of which there will be some sign, is an ancient civilization of humans ruled by a sorcerer king. And they collapsed due to some kind of chaotic influence, some kind of chaotic corruption brought them to ruin. So they're out there. And an ancient dwarven civilization, which I'm guessing Amu might have some relation or connection to. They were ruled by a seer or oracle, and they were destroyed by a civil war.
So it goes with dwarves.
What's that?
So it goes with dwarves.
Yes, so it goes with dwarves. Right. So those guys, there'll be sign remains of those civilizations out there somewhere. Okay. I think that's it. It's just after midnight. Thank you all. I know that a lot of this is like developmental, but now we've got a bit of a foundation, and you'll be able to get out there and explore and see what you can find. And I think, I mean, if everybody can do 2 weeks from today, that's what's on my calendar.
Yep.
So that's being workable.
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, that's great.
And I'll email everyone and remind you.
Should we make our character drawings?
That would be totally awesome if you could do that. And Jan, I think your task is to draw the snail riders, by which I mean the Caballero Caracal.
Yeah.
I think these snail riders might also believe in Caracal, or at least some primitive form of Caracal.
Yeah.
Maybe they're sort of the druids to our clerics.
Yeah, I think those guys are crazy.
because
They're
they're
the anarchists to our communists.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's fun.
Awesome.
I'm totally psyched to see where this goes.
Definitely.
Thanks, y'all.
Those of us on the East Coast are going to get some rest now. I love you all.
Yeah.
Yay.
And have a good night.
Yay.
Thank
Thank
Good
you.
night.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Yeah.
Bye.